From the star, not deserving to represent a hero like the Flash, to their long list of downright problematic behavior, here's why Ezra Miller doesn't deserve Retribution. Now, I think it's safe to say someone like Miller doesn't deserve to be the Flash. Barry Allen is as heroic as it gets. He's one of DC's most iconic heroes. And well, with how villainous Ezra's recent slew of activities has been, it doesn't feel right for them to portray the character on screen. The Flash is not only a classic superhero, but also a favorite among children. Kids all around the world watch DC movies. They love dressing up as him, wearing his logo on their pajamas, and looking up to him as an idol and role model. But the decision made by Warner Brothers to continue with Ezra in the recent Flash movie raised concerns among many. Some said that by keeping Miller in the role, the studio is sending a message to kids that even folks with a history of aggression and inappropriate behavior can be considered role models. Which is just downright weird. And while Ezra did chalk up a lot of their behavior as them facing complex mental health issues, let's not forget that a lot of what they did isn't so easily forgotten. From burglary to assault to even straight-up child grooming, there were some serious accusations against the star. And I'm not sure if they would have gotten away with all of it if they didn't have WB shielding them and banking a multi-million-dollar movie on the lead star not being in jail. Plus, there's another big reason why Miller getting off scot-free and potentially even returning as the Flash in future projects simply feels wrong. I mean, there's loads of talented and less controversial actors than Miller that deserve a shot. Fans felt that the studio made a mistake by keeping Ezra around, and have been asking them to replace the star with people like Dylan O'Brien, Logan Lerman, and Grant Gustin. Grant was really in the running as far as fan castings for the DCU's Flash is concerned. And that's because the star already portrayed the character in the CW show The Flash. Not only are they really skilled at acting, but they also have one little perk that Miller doesn't have. I mean, none of these actors faced multiple criminal charges, so as far as creating an on-screen character who's not only a great role model but also someone that doesn't have a history of violent behavior, they can do a much better job than Miller ever could. Before the film came out, word around town was that Grant would end up taking over the role from Miller, especially if their behavior continued to decline in the months following the film's release. At the very least, fans were hoping to get a cameo from Gustin, or a hint at whether the star would arrive in the DC universe in the future. It's clear that he's already got a huge fan following of folks who not only loved his work in the CW show, but also straight up don't like Ezra and want them gone. And while no official announcement has been made by DC yet, fans are hoping that the studio speaks up soon and announces whether Miller is going to continue as the Flash or not. Because to be honest, Miller is partly to blame for the Flash being such a box office bomb. And when I say bomb, I'm talking nuclear, because get this, the movie is the single worst performing superhero movie ever. Let that sink in. In the year 2023, after fans have gotten blueprints for so many good superhero movies, a studio still somehow created this absolute failure of a film. The film reportedly had a budget of around $220 million. And that's not all. It got a massive $150 million promotional budget too, likely to undo the damage that its lead star dealt to its potential marketability. From the looks of it, WB is set to lose nearly $200 million because of this movie, which is crazy to even think about. And like I said, it's hard not to blame Miller for this. Say what you will about the movie's CGI effects or terrible cameos. The fact is that no one was really hyped to see it in the first place. And a lot of it was because of Miller's actions over the past year or two. After constantly hearing the star's name in headlines, where they were either breaking in somewhere or assaulting someone, it's not surprising that general audiences felt like they should avoid this movie instead of supporting such a controversial lead star. To be fair, there were other things wrong with the movie too, like fans knew James Gunn is set to take over soon and start things off from a clean slate. But still, you'd imagine more people would show up for an epic summer blockbuster movie, even if it doesn't link up with any potential stuff in the future. And while I'm on that subject, it looks like Gunn may not even hire the star after this. With a track record that raises more than a few eyebrows, it makes sense why Gunn would consider Miller as poison for his new DC universe. Back in January 2023, Peter Safran, one of the bigwigs at DC Films, mentioned that they were holding off on hiring the controversial actor. They wanted to see the fans' reception to the new Flash film before they made any final decisions. Then, later in the year, Gunn stood by those statements, basically saying that they're not going to be making any concrete choices yet. James was smart enough not to spill the beans regarding Miller's potential future, which kept folks wondering just what was happening behind the scenes. And well, y'all know how terrible The Flash did, which seems the only lifeline Miller had going for them is now officially out of the picture. Now there's almost no reason for WB to keep Miller around. Keep in mind that James is the sort of director who's willing to fire even fan-favorite actors like Henry Cavill if the star is not right for the part he's got in mind. So to me, it doesn't make any sense for him to not only ignore Miller's problematic past, but also give the star a second chance after the absolutely terrible reception their Flash film got. The safest option for James would be to fire Ezra and start looking for their replacement. With what's going on with Marvel right now, because of the whole Jonathan Majors situation, I have a feeling James will want to stay clear of any potential troublemakers that could get in the way of his new DCU, especially when you consider this next bit. I mean, there's no saying the star's efforts to retain their mental health will continue. Miller was on a downward spiral during the last year or two. And while people like the director of The Flash, Andy Muschietti, have said that the star has made some decent progress, there's no guarantee they'll continue to improve instead of getting in the way of production. Hiring someone like Miller is honestly like having a ticking time bomb on set. You never know when they're gonna go off. In a way, the star has already been given way too much favoritism from DC. Despite how terrible the film was, and how controversial Ezra has been lately, they received a bigger paycheck than even Robert Pattinson got in The Batman. But it's clear that fans feel like it has to stop now, because from everything they've seen, Miller doesn't deserve the retribution and special care that WB has provided to them so far. And that especially rings true when you consider all their problematic actions. It's almost too much to cover all of it in a single video. That's how bad it is. So on March 27, 2022, Ezra was arrested and charged with disorderly conduct and harassment following a rather chaotic incident at a bar in Hawaii. Miller, possibly not a fan of karaoke, became increasingly angry with the singing patrons. And what did they do to express their displeasure? Well, they started shouting obscenities at everyone in sight. Just a few weeks later, during the same Hawaiian vacation, they were allegedly asked to leave a private get-together and, in a fit of rage, threw a chair. But their aim wasn't exactly on point, and the chair ended up hitting a 26-year-old woman, causing a cut on her head. Yikes. Later, Miller found themselves in a courtroom, where they pleaded no contest and accepted the charges against them. But wait, there's more. Later that same year, Miller faced another legal hurdle. This time, they were charged with the alleged burglary of a home in Stamford, Vermont. It started with a complaint about a burglary at a residence, and upon closer investigation, the police discovered some surveillance videos that pointed their fingers squarely at Miller. And then, a few months later, Miller finally admitted their guilt and said their mental health issues were to blame for all of this. Convenient, huh? So from their long list of downright problematic behavior to the star not deserving to represent a hero like the Flash, that was why Ezra Miller doesn't deserve retribution.